if you don't submit to control, if you're a radical, you're less likely to be loved. You're not fitting in with society. You're viewed as an outsider. So there's a lot of social prohibitions about the outsider and the person who's going to upset things.
From the time we're very young, we're taught to, worship authority basically because that's our key to survival as young children. But as adults, we never go through the rites of passage that tell us how to methodically think for ourselves, and thus we're always in a state of extended adolescence.
When we take all this stuff, whether it's the television or it's the enculturation, the schoolyards, the teachers, we take this whole system, we put it into our unconscious mind. And it is the G.I. Joe that comes out, garbage in, garbage out. We simply, in that computer language, harness our own power by accepting all these beliefs as though they are fact. Whether it's the flat earth of Columbus, or it's the idea that I'm not good enough to be or to do something I've dreamed to do.
To the degree that the individual loses a sense of what freedom really means for himself, mind control is working. This is the constant battle and struggle. What does my freedom mean to me? What is it? How deep does it go? How far-reaching is it?
Individuals come already with their rights. They're born with their rights. They're inherent. They're hardwired. They're hardware.
It's tragic. They've lost their sense of the importance of the individual. Each individual. We're not animals. We're individuals. We're created in the image of God.
And so what you have is everybody's born into this control structure. Everybody's born into authority. Everyone's born into this situation. But just because you have an authority making decisions for you at some point when you're very young, too young to take care of yourself, doesn't mean you should always cater to authority your whole life.
Fatalism, defeatism, what Bob Morley called mental slavery. That's just a huge thing that he would sing about. How do we emancipate ourselves from mental slavery? Have we moved to that point of such slavery that we're too far gone and just kind of letting it all flow by and being apathetic about it just gets you in a position of being controlled?
There are some people that don't care. There are some people that don't know and don't want to know. It is very frightening. If you really look at it, you would only be left with the understanding that you were obligated to do something about it. And, people work really hard every day, and they just want to relax, enjoy their life.
We have established a framework that, for the most part, works pretty good. People enter into this contract with society. That contract allows them to follow certain rules and expect certain returns on their investment of working within the framework of the contract.
Human beings form habits. At some point in our lives, many of us realize that the lives we are living are not those which we have imagined, but rather lives reflecting others' imaginations, as if we have been unwitting actors in someone else's script. Are we acting out the artificial roles created by others who have successfully harnessed our minds through our lives? To answer that question, we must first learn how the minds of individuals can be harnessed by systems of psychological control. Are the habits reflected by human beings in direct conflict with their needs to survive and thrive in this world? The enormous implications deter many of us from asking these simple questions and finding answers relevant to our daily lives.
If we don't resist all of the different information that comes our way and weigh it and use our own minds instead of somebody else wants us to think, eventually society would become nothing more than automatons, robots.
The establishment it's protected itself unless you submit to the saturation, indoctrination, and adopt or its values. You can't get in.
Everyone needs to find out and really think about it. What is going too far? Because all of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game. They're ahead of the game.
Humans subjugate themselves to control because they're born into it. And the tyrants and the social engineers know how to incrementally begin to slowly ratchet up the manipulation, the domination, the oppression, so that people never really recognize it coming. It's the old analogy of the frog in the boiling pot. You throw a frog in a boiling pot. Folks in Louisiana will tell you this. A bullfrog, he'll jump out. But if you put him in a cold pot, put it on simmer, he'll get slow, he'll boil. You'll never see it coming.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with group collectivism. Like, go back to John Dewey, you know, he hated the individual. He hated the rugged individualism of America. He had to get rid of that. And trying to be very deeply involved with that. And so I think that when you've been reduced to a member of a group, a collective, whether it's through sensitivity training or whether, you know, it's in your own community, like we have a community-oriented policing system, where they give you a medal, if you do a good deed, well, you know, you're part of the collective with the police.
I would say in the next 50 years, if large numbers of people don't become consciously resistant to the overall mind control exerted by society, we're going to see many more people who really truly resemble anger. People induce this themselves by looking out at the world and saying, it's too dangerous for me to tell the truth and say what I really express. It's much better if I fabricate a completely synthetic personality that's going to sit right here and remain passive. That's how it works.
The idea of a short-term gain, basically giving up freedoms. Giving up freedoms is never a good idea.
Since the dawn of time, small groups of human beings have instilled artificial circular limitations on the minds of their subjects through the procession of history. Traditionally, the limitations are imprinted on a servile population through a cunning use of language, instruction, and media for the purposes of conquest, social cohesion, and authoritative order by harnessing the human resources of the broad population. Human history reflects countless stories, regardless of what era you happen to live in, and the common thread throughout these stories is that of the struggle between the state, whatever its form, and the individual, the goal of which is to harness and subsume the individual, willingly or unwillingly, into its group collective.
The role of authority is a predatory system that sees the individual basically as a unit of energy. The first forms of mind control go back to prehistory. And you would simply have a priest class that developed technologies of herbs and medicine and had a value to the tribe. But pretty soon the priest class would start studying the sky and when there were solar and lunar eclipses and would say, hey, the sun's not going to come back on this date unless you make me king or unless you give me total control. And the people would say, okay, we saw the eclipse when you said it was coming. You know, the snake god ate the sun of the moon. What do you want? I want your firstborn child. Sacrifice him to me. Every culture does that. Every culture at one time or another demands human sacrifice because that's the state or the priest class demanding absolute, total fealty and submission to it.
Mind control has existed since the dawn of time. Only the methods have changed. Elites have always known. If I can control the minds of my people, control them. Only the technology change. It's still the same program. It's never stopped.
Sun Tzu, within the works of the art of war, talk about the fact that you can understand your enemy so well to the level where you can psych him out. Basically defeat him before you put one boot on the battlefield. You become a true master of your domain.
The Greek author Plato embedded several key characteristics of ruling groups in his monumental work, known as The Republic. Therein, he introduces the term cybernetics as a description of steering the ship of state, emphasizing crowd control. Plato memorialized the essence of the scenario used to control individuals to this day, to make them part of the group or state. This is famously known as the allegory of the cave, a useful strategy which is emblematic of the history of mind control.
The idea of cybernetics first shows up in Plato's Republic, I believe it's book 6, and in the Greek original text it read kybernetes. But you can easily discern how this word tied into cybernetics, the control of not only nations, but how the making of individuals into the collective that forms nations came about.
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information, the potential of speech, the potential of words, the potential of books.
Aspects of how they control us, we can learn individually, become free, and to communicate amongst each other how to do that more efficiently.
Don't buy the propaganda. Don't believe what's in the mainstream media. Sometimes it's true, but often not.
There's only one thing that we can do to change the course of the narrative, and that is to recapture the system. All of the positions of power in America today, and to a large extent around the world, are in the hands of collectivists.
Conspiracy is the story of history. It's the story of plunderers taking care of people who produce. They claim to take care of them through government, which doesn't give you anything, it doesn't take away first. So it's not creating something out of nothing. It's very real what they're doing. They're taking your rights or taking some people's rights and adding more to someone else's rights.
That's why when you put on the 6 o'clock news and you switch from one channel to another, they take their commercial breaks at the same time, they tell the same news stories, and they tell the same news stories at the same time. But then you go to the internet, go to BBC out of London, or one of the other foreign news services, and you see all kinds of news that you never hear about. Mass media today is the cutting edge of psychological warfare, and it is nothing but an all-out assault against the general public. When you watch mainline establishment television, you are putting yourself in front of the barrel of a gun.
It all goes back to people who are smarter than us, who are polymaths, who are organized and have a lot of office supplies and infinite money because they can print it out of thin air and everyone else takes it and says, this is real. That's not real. Your mind is real, objective reality is real, wisdom is valuable because we can learn how to survive together with that. But all these things that they make us think are valuable, like petroleum or any of these other commodities, they're all fear-based. If we just really understood what was going on in our voluntary role in it, we wouldn't play such a role in our own servitude.
Freedom of the individual is where you start. And then the individual can say, what am I going to do with my own freedom? How am I going to use my imagination and my creative power to invent realities of my own and make them fact in the world, as opposed to sitting back here passively and letting elites manufacture reality for us.
Consequences to non-resistance of control is losing everything that makes us human, that we love, that we cherish.
Now think about which laws have been passed recently to give you more rights. There aren't any. There aren't any at all.
It's input, processing, and output. And what we're trying to do is keep a clean signal, that's knowledge of that which exists, and to filter out the noise. And we do that by dismissing the arbitrary, things that aren't substantial, and identifying fallacies, because the way that people can effectively lie is through words, and it's through our own belief in these words that makes it take control of our lives. So in understanding these essential aspects of how they control us, we can learn individually, become fluent, and to communicate amongst each other how to do that more efficiently.
Our ancestors fought against incredible odds so that we might have some basic freedoms. And you're betraying yourself, your children, your family, and all future human generations. We can't turn our species over to total darkness. We can't turn our species over to people who love to hurt innocence and who hate beauty. We must resist the New World Order. We must free our minds and awaken the human spirit. It is time for the sleeping giant that is humanity to awaken.
I think what is going to happen in the future is the dictators will find, as the old saying goes, that you can do everything with bayonets except sit on them. That if you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions and his physiology even, and so making him actually love his slavery. I mean, I think this is the danger, that actually people may be in some ways happy under the new regime, but they will be happy in situations where they oughtn't to be happy.
It has been widely reported that Joseph Goebbels had employed Bernays' Crystallizing Public Opinion, the first book written on the emerging field of public relations, while formulating his own propaganda campaigns for Nazi Germany.